Hello everyone and welcome to day 4 of my Arizona adventure, a podcast mini-series presented by Pangolin, the conservation podcast. I'm your host, Jack Baker, and thank you for joining me once again as I explore the beautiful, the wonderful, the deserty, the roasting hot but magnificent state of Arizona here in the US of A. Thank you so much for joining me. Today, we are going to be talking a little bit about a couple things, actually. The first of which is the Arizona-Sonora Desert Museum, which I visited during the day. And the second of which is the NAAEE Conference, which is what I am here to attend. It's why I'm in Arizona in the first place. And it all kicked off this evening and it was fantastic. And so I've got a couple highlights I want to discuss with you because they're great and they're environmental education-y, and I think you'll all be interested. So, yeah, there's a lot to be getting on with. And so let's get on with the show. The show, of course, starting at 6 a.m, as all of my days do, apparently, here in the US, because my brain does not want to adjust to the time difference, where I was up, getting showered and ready to come on a field trip to the Arizona-Sonora Desert Museum. Now, this trip was slightly different to my last few, where the last few days when I went to the Botanical Gardens and zoos and all sorts of things, those were independent trips. Today, this was a trip organised by the conference. It was one they'd set up, that they'd kind of got the tickets organised and everything. And so, yeah, I just had to turn up, get on a bus and go, which makes life a lot easier than trying to navigate a brand new city by yourself. So it was very greatly appreciated. Thank you to anyone from the conference who organised that and is listening, because that made life excellent, especially because the Arizona-Sonora Desert Museum, as the name may suggest, is in the desert. And so very far away from where I was staying previously. And yeah, would have been very awkward to get to. So yeah, day started. As it was an organised trip, we all load onto a bus and off we go to the museum. Except there's a twist. There's always a twist. With me, I always end up in chaotic situations. And today, of course, was no exception. As we boarded the bus, I was handed a piece of paper that instructed me that I was in charge. Because obviously I exude such a museum-y, zoo-y, aquarium-y, teacher-y energy that I can be trusted to move a group of people who I've never met across a state I don't really know to a museum I've never visited before. Under the title of, and I love this because I'd never heard it before, cat herder. Just really exemplifying how easy a job it was going to be. And so, yes, I was handed this bit of paper and basically told, Jack, it's your job to get everyone in, and it's your job to make sure everybody gets back on the bus and back to the hotel. And not to spoil the ending before we get to it, but you'll be glad to know we got there, we got in, and I safely returned everybody back to the hotel. Thank you so much, listeners. I can hear your applause from here. A 25-year-old was able to manage people successfully. I know when I can barely manage myself, it's quite the struggle, but I got through. No. On with the actual show before we get too deep into that. Of course, we were going to visit the wonderful Desert Museum, the Arizona-Sonora Desert Museum. And for anyone who didn't listen to yesterday's show, doesn't know what it is, the Arizona-Sonora Desert Museum is a huge outdoor museum. And by that, it's not just the kind of classic taxidermied animals, a bit of pottery in a room, and whatever else you find. It's not that. It's so incredible. It's a huge chunk of desert that has been carved out into a celebration of the Sonora region. The Sonora region, actually, an important point, the Sonora region, it extends down into Mexico as well. So it's not just this celebration of kind of, not just this celebration of kind of the local Arizona species. It's this celebration of a huge area, the Sonora Desert, where there's all these brilliant species. And yeah, I feel like I'm losing my track, but that's kind of a description of what it does. And to do that, back on track, it has a living collection of plants, of animals, it has rocks, it has fossils, it has an aquarium, it has all sorts of incredible, amazing, wonderful things that really demonstrate how beautiful and fantastic and diverse this region is, while also kind of, inspiring and captivating the imagination and providing this living museum feeling with, which is just the best. And I think the word museum, it's such a tricky one, because I think in one hand it does sum it up so well, because it is a museum, it's a celebration and a historical legacy and living legacy, but also it's so much more than that. So I want it to be more than a museum, but I have no idea how you would brand it. And so I think, they probably got it spot on. But, I just want you to know just how much more it was. So we pull up at the museum and we all hop off the bus. We go in, we're greeted by two brilliant educators who are there to kind of lead us around, tell us some stuff. And they start off by kind of explaining that it is the celebration of a wider region and the living collection. And they also, really importantly, I think, given it was Indigenous Peoples Day, I think on Monday this week, they acknowledge the fact that the land that this museum is on and is built on and celebrates was the land of the Indigenous people who lived there. I didn't write down the name of the group. I'm very, very sorry, listeners. I'll try and look it up and put it in the description. But I remember they called them the desert people who lived there and kind of were custodians of this land and made sure it kind of functioned and worked and have their all culture and everything based and grown in this beautiful, magical place. And so they kind of celebrated that, and I thought that was a really fantastic first impression and a really important first impression, because I don't think enough zoos, aquariums and things do that. And I think in the age where we're all thinking about culture and thinking about heritage and thinking about people's experiences, I think that's such an important and great thing to do. So really appreciated that. Then once they'd done that, they let us kind of free into the zoo. Into the museum. Very important, the museum. You walk through and you go through these gates and all you can see is miles and miles and miles and miles and miles of open space. And it's the most captivating view I've had in Arizona so far, because you feel like you can see forever until these mountains break up the kind of horizon with these beautiful hills, and it's just fantastic and beautiful and amazing. And obviously I don't have the time to tell you about everything that goes on there, but just picture that, the widest desert you can imagine, filled with the most incredible displays of animals, the huge spaces, the wonderful desert dusty paths. And then also, because it is in this open space, it's not a museum crammed in an old building, you have the living collection alongside this living environment. So there's reptiles running around, there's little chipmunky things running around, little squirrely things, there's all these kind of different insects, butterflies, wildflowers, all sorts of stuff just springing up all over the place, and birds, the most beautiful kind of cactus wrens, and what else was there? All sorts of birds flying around, just the best, most magical space. And so, I hope I've summed up such a magical setting in very few words. Hopefully you get the picture. If not, look up pictures. I'm sure I'll be posting pictures all over social media because it was amazing. Get that into your heads. Imagine all of the following in that beautiful setting. So you get that magic, you see all this stuff, and then you walk around and you see species such as mountain lions, they had coyotes, they had the Mexican wolf, they had deer, they had bobcats, they had ocelots, they had foxes, they had... What else did they have? They had beavers, they had bighorned sheep, they had... I feel like I'm listing everything. Prairie dogs, of course, a classic favourite of mine. And they had all of these amazing species in the zoo. They also then had living botanical collections featuring cacti and other species of plant from across the region. They had a an excellent kind of dig and cave section where you actually went underground into these caves and saw kind of the history of the planet, of the region, some of the different discoveries that had been found there. Then you also had, I'm just listing so much and I'm sorry, but it's that they also had there is so much. They had an aquarium, they had a reptile house, they had a whole section where it was just desert. And it was like it was, and then they had these kind of very thin fences or carefully crafted paths that went over and under and around various exhibits. So it felt like you were kind of one with the animals, and the animals really could leap out at you at any moment. And that was great. They just had so much good stuff. And alongside all of that, they had a stingray section, which was like really cool. And I kind of thought a bit random, but what I thought was really interesting was the people who worked there were like, oh, people question why we have stingrays. Well, actually, if you think about it, the Sonora region stretches down into Mexico and down the Baja Peninsula? Something like, I think, down that side of the kind of American continent. And that whole area is broken up in the middle by the Gulf of California, which is filled with stingrays and other aquatic creatures. And so there's purpose even to that. It's not just a money grab. Look, we have stingrays. It's a purposeful, thought through thing. And I just think that's so special. And it's something that I love. It's not rays for the sake of rays. It's rays for the sake of education about the area. And I thought that was so cool. What else did I learn today while I was there? They had a rare hummingbird on site at the moment that had kind of flown in and was living in one of the trees. Benefits of being an outdoor museum, I suppose, which was fabulous. Loved that. They also did a private animal kind of encounter and presentation about their educational work because we were there as part of an education conference. They wanted to tell us a little bit about it. Great idea. Kind of sell yourselves, and they did that perfectly because not only did they tell us about their programs, as I mentioned, they did an animal encounter, which always wins me over. They had a chuckwalla, which is a type of lizard. I want to say it was called willow or something like willow. And it lived on one of the islands in the Gulf of California. And so, yeah, it had all of these kind of this kind of amazing conservation story behind it, where these lizards lived on these islands, were perfectly safe and perfectly fine, until, of course, you guessed it, humans came along and invasive species followed, and they started to decline. And so they talked about a conservation project where they're trying to protect this species, and it was really, really interesting. And something I loved was it was quite a saggy looking thing, but big and saggy. And it was kind of like, well, why? Why would it be like that? Basically, its main predator before the invasive species was birds. And so what it would do is the big saggy skin, if it got kind of chased down, it could run into between two rocks, puff itself up like a balloon, and basically hold itself in place so it couldn't get dragged away by birds. And I love that for it. That wasn't the only cool thing, though. What was the other thing? Yes. So basically the other cool thing was its skin is patchy, like black and beigey colours. And you might not know this. You might know this already. If you wear white repels the heat a little bit. And if you wear black, it kind of attracts the heat and helps warm you up. So they have embedded this into their skin. And so they can kind of change their colours and their coloration to help adjust to the temperatures and the stuff that's going on around them. And kind of, if they need to heat up, they can heat themselves up by changing the colour, or they can cool themselves down again, which is so cool and so advanced. And it makes me wonder how humans have survived so long, because we don't do cool stuff like that. And yeah, just amazing. And I think it's great and fantastic. Now, the other animal they brought out for this was a star. It was a porcupine called Roo, and I don't know if they did this on purpose, but the fact they got a porcupine called Roo to walk out onto a runway up towards us by tempting it with pieces of food towards the end, and then do some little walks backwards and forwards. Have they watched Drag Race? RuPaul's Drag Race and interpreted that with a porcupine? Or is it just some kind of magical coincidence that happened? Either way, I loved it. And Ru was a shining star who was being an absolute diva and only performing when food was given. But not just that, only certain foods. She was picky, and we love it when a diva knows their worth and knows the fact that they are the star and knows the fact that everyone is here to see them. We love. Because I remember working with things like snakes and bearded dragons. Bearded dragon I once worked with called Finn. Absolutely the same case. She hated men unless you had food, in which case she would eat the food and then she would go back to hating you. And I just love that. So yeah, a star. Then what else did they have? We kind of did that. We had lunch there. They had a hummingbird aviary, which if you've listened to the first episode of this show, you'll know the effect that had on me. They had a pollinator garden. They had, something interesting I learned today, actually. This was not there, and I haven't fact-checked this, because, listeners, here's a confession. I took a semester of Spanish in my undergraduate degree and almost nearly failed it because my dyslexic brain couldn't process it. So I can't confirm this myself. But the peccaries we mentioned the other day are often referred to here in Arizona and in Tucson as javelinas. Spelt javelinas, if anyone's looking to Google it, with a J, and it's the H sound J. And apparently that means javelin tooth. I can't confirm that because of as I say, my Spanish is awful. The only word I remember is cabeza, which means, if I remember correctly, head. Don't know why that stuck. I think it just because I thought it was a very pretty word. But no, if that's true, an excellent, amazing fact. And yeah, I loved it. I really can't say enough good things about this museum because it was so much more, as I said, so much more than that. Amazing, great, fantastic. Had excellent magnets in the gift shop, and we always love a magnet. So yeah, can't complain really at all. They also had an aquarium. Before I go from this, they also had an aquarium which was filled with amazing species. And you know deep down, listeners, if you've been listening for a long time, I'm an aquarium boy at heart. And so that really won me over, especially because they had multiple species of garden eel, those little things that kind of pop up out of the sand and look a bit silly. And so I loved it so much. And it kind of was telling the story of kind of the rivers that run down to the oceans and how they had just the whole thing so well thought through, so well themed, so fantastic. Again, though, having been in the reptile house, Arizona, we need to talk about your rattlesnakes. Why'd you have so many? Surely one would be enough. No, it's great and love it and fantastic and amazing. And yeah, I suppose the end of that story is I rounded everybody onto the bus. We got back safe and sound. And I was so eternally proud of myself for not losing anyone. And thank you, listeners. I know I can hear the applause, as I said, from here. I looked after everybody and I got them back. And I didn't let the power go to my head, not even when I was given the microphone by the bus driver to shout out and make sure we had everyone on the bus while reading names like a primary school teacher, being having a bit of a power trip. Didn't even let the power go to my head then. We made it through, we made it back, and it was a fantastic, amazing, beautiful, fabulous day. And then, of course, alongside that, then we get back, charge my phone a little bit, sit down for about 10 minutes, and then I'm off again because the NAAEE Conference, which I am actually here for, began. And so, yes, it was the opening ceremony thingy tonight, the opening kind of session where they had all sorts of speakers, they had all sorts of educators and people and important members of the local community come in and tell us all sorts of interesting things about environmental education and how the next kind of few days are going to work. And it was just, a great opening night. Now, it did last for about 3.5, 4 hours if you include all the networking and stuff. So I have picked my 3 favourite bits of the night to tell you about, because otherwise I'm going to be here all night and I need to go to bed soon because I'll be up in the morning to do a whole day of conferencing that I need to tell you about tomorrow. So it's a deadly cycle if I stay up too late telling you all this. So, the three things. Number one highlight of the opening night of the NAAEE Conference for me was, of course, Las Azeleas, which were a wonderful band that they had come in and play the most beautiful music. They were a band that celebrates the kind of I think they said Latin Mexican kind of roots of the area and the kind of culture of the area through their music and their song. And it was so fabulous and beautiful and moving. And I had tears in my eyes the whole time they were singing because they just had the most beautiful voices. Like, you know that those moments where someone starts to sing and the whole room just goes absolutely quiet for a second and everybody there, like, they take like a... Because the singers, they just had the most incredible, beautiful voices, and they opened with, I don't know the name of the song, but it's the song, I think it's "This Land Is Your Land, This Land Is This Land Is Your Land, This Land Is My Land." I don't know the title of it, but it's such a beautiful, incredible, moving piece of music anyway, and so they sang it both in kind of English and then in Spanish. And it was just so moving. The only time I've ever heard it before was very randomly when Lady Gaga sang it at the start of her Super Bowl halftime show. And then she jumped off the roof of the stadium. That's the only time I've heard this song before. So to hear it here in a context where it was sung with a bit more emotion than a woman about to throw herself from the roof of a stadium, it was so moving and fabulous. And the musicians and the way they played their instruments and they sang at the same time and just... fabulous, 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 and I loved it. So yeah, that was number one. We started strong with tears in my eyes. Number two, we had the mayor of Tucson came and gave a little bit of a speech, talked a little bit about her environmental work and why it means a lot to her to be kind of engaged with kind of environmental education and climate change work and all sorts of stuff. She talked about the fact that her parents were her first ever environmental educators. And I think that's so... It hit home with me and it's so beautiful and moving because I think it's something that all of us can really relate to, that our parents or guardians, whoever raised us, are these people who teach us the way we see the world. And I'm so grateful for the way that I was raised by my parents, and they let me explore the natural world and they let me do this. And so when she was talking about that, it really hit home for me and it felt special. And then on top of that, she didn't just discuss the kind of magic of nature and how it kind of helped raise her, and without even knowing it, she was kind of being raised that way to care about nature. She also then declared this week, I think she's the 10th to the 15th, Environmental Education Week in Tucson. So she read out the big proclamation. And yeah, officially now, here in Tucson, Arizona, it is Environmental Education Week. And I love that. I just love that. And I know it's maybe silly to some people who will be like, oh, it's just a week. But it's not silly. It's important and it's magical and it's special, and it makes environmental educators who are all here feel appreciated and make it feel like our work is not just screaming into the void of like, yay, come and listen to us, we need to change the world. It is nice to have that recognition every now and again, and I was deeply appreciative of that. And so, yes, thank you so much to the mayor for coming out and speaking to us, and again, an inspiration. I think they said something like she was the first female mayor of the town, and it just so special to have her there and such a great voice to hear, and I really enjoyed that. Then final piece before I get too emotionally invested, we've had me almost crying at a song, then me being overly inspired. Well, it's happening again for point 3, because point 3 was our final kind of speaker of the night. It was Julie Packard, who was the founder of the Monterey Bay Aquarium. And I was just awestruck. I was just like, you run possibly the greatest aquarium in the entire world. You are an exemplar to every conservationist. You just are the best. And she was there talking about her experiences and how she kind of helped to build this place up, and how it started as kind of a very simple, small idea. And then they got 2 million visitors in their first year, and it started to grow and change, and their mission changed to become not just about highlighting the kind of Monterey Bay area, about all sorts of other things and how they needed to kind of protect and value and love and do all sorts of important work for the whole ocean, not just a specific area. And it was so special, and it was so, just so great, and so kind of like, oh, you do great stuff. And I was so blown away. I can't believe she was there. And I just loved hearing from her about her important work. And I think anyone who is in the zoo community listening to this will be very jealous that I got to hear her speak, because yes, an icon of said community, and we love her for it. 10 out of 10. Also, I was thinking about it afterwards. I feel like if we're ever making a movie about her life, Sigourney Weaver, I can see it. I would like to see it. I feel like it would be very interesting. Whoever movie studio out there is listening, get on that, please. Because I think we all deserve that. We deserve this. And I would like to see it. Now, of course, that is the end of another day. It is the end of another episode. It is the end of episode 4. We've covered botanical gardens. We've covered zoos. We've covered museums that are also zoos and botanical gardens and everything else under the sun. And now we have covered the conference as well. And I should go to bed, because tomorrow the conference kicks off full swing with breakfast. I think it's 7:30. We're meeting, and then meetings and conferences and talks and chats and networking and all sorts of stuff happening. And I can't wait for it to get started. And I'll hopefully have lots of fun information for you tomorrow. My goal before I leave is to find a roadrunner. I haven't seen one yet. I need to see one. I want to see one. And hopefully we'll see it. I don't know if it will happen, but we'll keep you updated over the next few days, guys. Now, before I talk too much about that, of course, I need to thank you all so much for listening. You are the best. You are amazing. And now that I've actually reached the conference stage, I'm appreciating just how much you have brought to my life and allowed me to be here and experience this. And thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. If you would like to subscribe and continue to support the show to allow me to do fabulous things like this, you can please subscribe to the show on your social media platforms of choice. We're on your social media, on your podcast streaming services of choice. We're on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts from. We're there. We are also on social media, so you can follow us on my words are all getting mumbled. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. We're at Pangolin Podcast on all of those. And while you're there, you can follow me on Instagram at TheOnlyJackBaker, or on Twitter at OnlyJackBaker as well. What else? You can leave us a nice review if you'd like. That would also be great. Now, I guess that brings us to the end of another day. So thank you once again. Love you. Appreciate you. Grateful for you. You're everything. You're amazing. You can go out and change the world, because that's how I'm feeling. And I feel like all of you can do it too. And on that inspiring note, thank you so much for joining me once again for my Arizona adventure. Goodbye.